And slowly but surely, the walls come down, and then there's no more separation between these two places of light. The light is the light, and there's nothing hiding it from us anymore. And then when our conscious mind becomes aware of this and understands it, when we can really wrap our heads around it, our minds, our thinking minds around it, then it gets really interesting, because, the mind it's a tool. It's a tool of creation. Anything that exists was first imagined in someone's mind. This laptop, this microphone, someone had to think of that first and put it together. So in order for us to have the ability to construct the life of our dreams, the things that we want, we need to be able to imagine it's possible.
Welcome to the Daily Soul Bytes Show. I am your host, Bola, Abimbola, frequency alchemist, intuitive life coach, and energy practitioner. Daily Soul Bytes is where we have guest authors, coaches, and entrepreneurs in the fields of spirituality, psychology, and leadership, sharing their insights for the expansion of collective consciousness. And we are now in season 5. Really brilliant to be in 2026 in season 5. We have come a long way, and it is a journey. And we have a very special guest today, all the way from New Jersey in the United States, Rita Strough. Welcome to the show, Rita.
Thank you, Bola. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you today. It's an honor.
It is such a pleasure to have you, because you're also an oracle, and I'm always eager to talk to my colleagues in Oracle. So thank you for being here. I will read your bio before we start. Rita Strough is a spiritual guide and Usui Reiki Master, a conscious channel, and a teacher devoted to helping others awaken to the divine within. Through channeled wisdom, energy healing, and guided meditation, she helps people connect with their higher selves and the power of divine love. Rita offers spiritual counseling, meditation cycles, and attunement workshops to deepen connection and expand consciousness. My favorite topic in the whole wide world.
Me too.
It's really nice. So tell us, Rita, how did you come to this place? Because I know that, a lot of us, we do not necessarily grow up in that environment of spirit or in that environment of energy healing. How did you come to this place? If you just give us a bit of a summary as to your background and the stepping stones that led you to this place.
Yes, well, thank you. I know it can be a very long story, so I'm going to try to keep it concise. But the long and short of it is I was raised in a big Catholic family, Catholic Italian, and we went to church every Sunday. And I always had questions. I was one of these kids that just wanted to know why. I wanted things to make sense in my mind. So early on, I think I asked too many questions because I was always told to be quiet. To just accept things as they are. And so I did. In my teens, I was interested just because of, I don't even know, I somehow got interested in past life regression, things like the Ouija board for divination and astral projection, things like that. I had read a few books from the library, and it just fascinated me. But again, with my upbringing, it was sort of made to me that these things were not, they weren't acceptable, that there was some evil, there was some darkness that, I was opening myself to. And so it scared me. And I stepped away. I kind of stepped away from the church and everything really for a very long time. I tried to go back. I just couldn't. I couldn't make that connection again. It didn't feel right to me.
Are you looking for AAA grade jewelry or gemstones? Utter Spirit are those we will recommend. They actually do really wonderful jewelry. They have gifted me really nice lapis lazuli, which is really good for connecting with universal wisdom. And also this shungite beads, which come from Russia, and they're really aren't rare, because a lot of the times you get shungite beads which affect your skin, and these beads have been really nice. My son also loves them, and outer spirit, they give back to nature as well. So that is really nice that they are contributing to the environment, and they also send this intention cards. They're quite nice. This shungite card says, I cleanse myself from harmful energies. And the lapis lazuli card says, I am connected to the infinite wisdom of the universe. So there's information that goes with it, as well as them, producing really good quality jewelry. So I will recommend to connect with Otter Spirit. And the code will be going with this video. So check them out.
So fast forward now to my early 40s. I had, two children in school. I was working full time in corporate America, going to school at night to complete my bachelor's degree. And I started to have these feelings that were really beginning to overwhelm me, feelings that there must be something more to life than this. I didn't understand really why all of us seem to be bought into this idea that we have to push so hard and achieve so much and always strive for more, more, more. It felt just incomprehensible to me that we've decided somehow as a species, humans, that we're going to live like this. So I started to have what I later learned were called symptoms of ascension or symptoms of awakening, which was this low level kind of disturbance in my life that felt like there was something missing. And I don't know exactly when it happened. I think it may have been a conversation I had with a good friend of mine named Anne. I had known her for about 10 years. Our kids went to daycare together. That's how we met. But I was complaining about something. And she said, why don't you just ask your angels for help? And I was like, what? Angels? It's strange too, because growing up, I always had this picture of the guardian angel with the two little children over my bed. And I used to look up at that and believe that there was someone watching over me. But I never tried to interact with angels or imagine that they were real or give it any second thought. So I asked her about that, and she started to introduce me to angels through books and recordings, audio books and things like that. Well, lo and behold, she introduced me to a book called Angels Speak by Barbara Mark and Trudy Griswold. It's a very tiny book. I read it in one night, and it was about how to connect with your angels. So I tried it. I tried what it said in the book, and I started to get information coming into my mind that I felt it sounds like my own voice, but it was really profound words like love, peace, serenity. And these words would just repeat until I wrote them down. So I actually opened up to, I guess you would call it automatic writing. I just started to receive information, and it was long, like dictation of information coming through me that was explaining that I was going to be working with the angels, that this was a time now of transformation on our planet. So many amazing messages started coming through in this way, and it shocked me, to be quite honest. I'm very skeptical by nature. So I called Anne and I said, I'm getting all this information. And she said to me, oh, I've been trying that for a while and I can't get anything. Can you ask my angels a question? I said, I don't know, maybe. What's your question? And there it began. So it just began as something simple like that. But I have to tell you, Bola, it was a series of little things that built up over time. I began to create for myself a space in my basement where I could meditate. And my goal was just to clear my head. And I did that for quite a while before I actually had what I want to call, and it was a mystical experience with the Archangel Michael. It was a vivid interaction that occurred in my mind's eye, but also in my body, where I saw him. I saw him descend in this way, appear in my mind's eye. That's a whole other story, but he interacted with me in a way that drove fear from me and poured wisdom into me. And again, through a series of many different events, talking to other people, reading different books, going to events and classes, and just meeting other people, I started to really become exposed to a lot of information. I would find myself drawn to things like quantum physics for no apparent reason. um, Everything. A person in line at a book signing asked me as we were chatting if I could connect with his deceased wife. I said, I don't know. And in my head, I'm hearing, yes, you can. So the angels really opened it up for me, and they started to lead me down this path where I began to question my own reality, how reality is created by the self, how it's a co-creation between the self and this higher force. And it just began to open up more and more and more different skills. And I really wasn't sure whether I was a psychic because I could connect with people. I could see, feel, hear, and know information about them. I could channel information and messages. And I hadn't even heard the word channel in my whole life. So I struggled with kind of describing what this is. That I said, I guess I'm a psychic. I guess I'm a medium. I don't know. I guess I'm a medical intuitive. I guess I'm all these things. And really what it boils down to is I am a conscious channel. When I open myself, I receive information from multiple dimensions of reality, these helpers that are in different dimensions or frequencies of reality that are interacting with us in subtle ways. And when I finally realized that's what I'm doing, that's how I could now just define what is going on with me. I am channeling. So, and that's kind of what led me to Oracle, talking to other people and finding people who connect the dots. And the next thing you know, I'm talking to Wainu, founder of Oracle, and now I'm a vetted spiritual practitioner on their platform, just as you are. But this all happened in the space of about, I want to say 10 years. So the last 15 years, 16 years has been a journey of opening up to spirit, to my spiritual gifts and talents and abilities, seeing life in a new way, and really just reconstructing life from a whole different viewpoint. So where I am today is radically different than where I was 15 years ago.
Mm.
It's amazing, really, the journey that got me here. But it all started with just this feeling of something's not right here. I feel like there's something more to life. What is it? Who am I? Who am I? And why am I here? Those two questions just were top of mind all the time. And I was made aware of who I am and why I'm here. And it just blows my mind.
Mm. I love that. Who am I? This is
Yeah.
such an interesting question. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing how you came to that place, Rita, because I resonate with that. I also remember asking myself that question. I came across a book in my late teens on the shelves at home, written by Ramana Maharishi, titled "Who Am I?" And it's a very interesting question because, in our day to day, we are not really um, concerned about any other I apart from the different selves, the different roles. I'm a mother, I'm a caregiver, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm a healer. Those are the who am I's that we tend to know. So to begin to look at another I, another self, is always a journey, and it's an interesting theme. I don't think everybody comes onto this earth plane in this lifetime to question, who am I apart from those physical roles, those physical ego selves. So it is a very dynamic and a very critical question for us to ask ourselves. I'd like to ask you, in your work as a spiritual counselor, when you work with your clients and they come to that place where they're asking, "Who am I?" How do you support them to really, differentiate between, to become more aware of that self that is divine, that is not physical? How do you work with your clients to help them to become more aware of the divine?
That's a great question, Bola. Usually, people who come for a spiritual counseling session are in some emotional state and needing some guidance. Most people wouldn't think to schedule something like a spiritual counseling session unless they had something going on with them that they are desperately trying to find some answers. So in some cases, they're going through something in their life experience that's difficult, or it could be a relationship problem. It could be one of those cross points in life where you have to make a decision. You're not sure what you want to do with your life. And some people are on that spiritual journey where they're saying, I need to know who I am, what my purpose is here. And how can anyone answer that question other than the person themselves, right? I don't know those answers. The guides that we interact with are just that. They're guides. They're signposts pointing you in a direction. So when I work with someone, I always make sure that they understand that this is their journey of discovery, that just like someone who would work with, say, a Sherpa to guide them up a mountain, maybe the Sherpa is walking alongside of you, but you're doing the work too. So it's a matter of teaching people to recognize that they are both human and divine, that you don't have to wait until you've crossed over from this life into the other realms to experience that divinity, that it is available while we are incarnate. So it just simply introducing people to the idea that they have access to and are part of this divinity that exists within all things, it begins to part the veil. It begins to clear the fog. It allows the person to understand themselves from a different perspective. So it really is about perspective. When you see yourself as someone who is struggling, confused, helpless, a victim, whatever that is that we're going through in that moment, when you only see yourself as someone who is cut off from answers and walking this path all alone, it's really hard. It's hard for you to imagine that there's a way out except through someone else, right? We're always looking for someone to help us, help me, help me. But I try to teach people that we're here to help one another with our own journeys, and that we are responsible for our own healing. We are responsible for our own answers. And so as a spiritual counselor, what I do is facilitate a conversation between that individual, that client sitting in front of me, and their spiritual support teams. So I become this conduit for them to ask these questions. Why am I here? What's going on with me? When we do that, when I'm connecting with someone in that way, and I open up to be this channel for that information, I will receive visuals, I'll receive actual spoken words, I'll receive a complete download of an understanding, like a knowledge that will just land, and I can then explain it in my own way to the person. But it truly is helping people connect with their own support teams in a safe way, in a protected environment where they can feel comfortable to receive that knowledge. And then I, of course, because I have worked on myself for so long now, I can speak from my own experience and offer the challenges and the things that I deal with and continue to deal with, because that's the funny thing about this, isn't it, Bola? We're never really done. We're never really done evolving. And there's just always something new or something on the horizon, or a new issue, a new challenge, a new mountain that we need to climb. So we are here to teach each other about the tools that are available to us on this journey. A few years ago, again, about 10 years ago, I had this visualization of a place that would be called Divine Being Spiritual Fitness Center. And I created a space, and I call it that, Divine Being Spiritual Fitness Center, because it came to me that just as we go to a gym or we do these workouts for our bodies, just as we're so focused on our physical health and well-being, and we have therapists for our mental health and well-being, we've often thought of maybe religion as our support for our spiritual well-being, and a lot of people find that that works for them, but like me, it wasn't clicking. So the help for the spiritual well-being comes in the form of spiritual advisors and guides who are here to introduce you to the part of you that is spiritual and divine, that's eternal and beautiful and connected and wise and intelligent, and to inform you about tools and practices you can use to deepen that connection, to strengthen that, so that when some adversity crosses your path, you're not thrown into a tailspin. You're ready for it because you've recognized that I am powerful. Just as we speak of like God as being all powerful, we are God. We are aspects of God. We are sparks of the divine. We're little holographic mini gods and goddesses. We are fractals of this thing that dreamed all of us into existence, right? In all the dimensions that reality is. So it seems so like out there and heady and crazy, but it's not. It really is. It's true. We are human and divine. And when you strengthen the human side and you strengthen the divine side, you become a whole being. Your wholeness is now complete and intact. And so you lose that fear of death. Of course, nobody wants to wrap this up too early, but the idea of dying becomes something like it's just a transition into another state of being. You understand that life goes on when you begin to connect with people who've passed away. You realize life continues, consciousness goes on. There is no limit or end to this. And then when you connect with the earth, when you connect with a tree, when you connect with a crystal, you realize there's multiple dimensions within which there are realities that we haven't learned about yet, or we're not tapped into yet. So again, by strengthening that spiritual self, by having good spiritual fitness, you're capable of really creating a life here that's much more rewarding and fulfilling than anything you could do without including that part of yourself. By just being half a self, you're not really taking full advantage of what it means to be here in a physical form. This is rare. It's very rare for consciousness to take form. Look at the universe. I mean, there's so much expanse, and there's matter out there, but it's maybe 4%, I don't know, 2% of all that is. So that's what I try to do with people. And it's a process of learning. So you can't go way into the deep stuff too quickly. You meet them where they are with their immediate needs, connect them with the help and guidance that they might need. I always recommend practices like meditation, setting aside a time. You don't have to be this great like knowledge of meditation. You just literally need to find time to be still, quiet, avoid all distractions, and center in yourself. Observe your thoughts. Try to get the thoughts to sit in a little waiting room, which is what I did in the beginning. I would say, here comes a thought. Okay, there's a waiting room over there. You go sit over there, and I'll get to you when I'm done doing this clearing of my mind thing. And it's true. It's a practice that's simple and easy to do. And it begins that process of just decluttering the mind, getting everything clear, creating space to have these mystical, magical, spiritual experiences.
When we are trying to transform that ego self with all the parts through its own self, through using the power and the rationale of its own self, that can be tough because we are trying to almost ask something to kill itself. And that never works. So I think connecting to the divine, that spirit self, the higher self, which is a part of the whole, that higher self and that physical ego self, I totally agree with you, make us whole. And we definitely will find it easier to do the transformation when we engage our spirit self, when we engage our higher self. This is why I wrote Daily Soul Bytes. It's my book. I published it in 2020, and it was again republished by Abimbola Press, division of Hay House, in 2023, titled Daily Soul Bytes. And it talks about the two perspectives, the two flavors of perspectives within us, the higher perspectives of love and gratitude and joy and peace, and the lower perspectives of fear, and, guilt, shame, anger. And we have both. We have both flavors in us all the time. And it's about what do we do with them. But being aware of the two flavors in any instant, when a thought comes to our heads, this is the difference between the two selves. The higher self always has some higher perspective to offer. And the physical ego self, that lower self, also always has something about survival to offer, and becoming much more aware. I love that you said, Rita, that self-awareness is so key, to be able to know the difference, to seek, to hold the higher and the lower perspectives, and know that these are all within me, and I can align based on what I feel is possible, and having people around us who can encourage us,
Yeah.
to give ourselves the permission to do that alignment, because the ego doesn't really give up that easily. So it's really key. I find that, what you're saying, Rita, about the differences and how we can come to allow spirit to be there to guide us, to encourage us, to inspire us, to help us carry out that shift. That is so key. And it takes me to the question around spiritual awakening, because there's so many different definitions of spiritual awakening. I'd love to hear your definition of it and what you consider to be the purpose of the spiritual awakening process. What is the spiritual awakening process and the purpose from your perspective?
Yeah, another good question. Spiritual awakening is that moment, and it's a moment that could stretch over a lifetime. But I would define spiritual awakening as the time in your life when you arrive at an understanding that you are more than your mind, you're more than your thoughts, you're more than your body, that you are a part of something that cannot be fully comprehended or understood. And as you go through a process of awakening, it begins the process of shedding old beliefs. I remember early on, I was channeling or connecting with Archangel Michael. And he is the one who, he described it this way: we crack open your shell. So when we come into this life, we're full of the joy of just being an innocent soul that's fully formed into a new physical form. And it can be frightening to be in a physical form after being non-physical. So babies have to learn so much, right? They have to learn everything. But what they also learn is what's going on around them. And in that process, we begin to put on that armor to shield and to protect ourselves, because we feel very vulnerable in this place when we come in. So at some point in our lives, I guess we tire of holding all that armor on our bodies to protect ourselves from being hurt, to protect ourselves from whatever, anything that comes along that we feel threatens us in any way. It just simply adds to this notion that we need to be on the lookout for danger all the time. Maybe it's instinctual. There's a part of us that's, an animal, that just like animals in nature, they have an instinct to protect themselves. They know what to do. We develop some kind of a shell that at some point it just doesn't serve the purpose anymore, or we need to break out of it in order to fully live. So spiritual awakening to me is like a crack in the shell that can happen from an event, from something spontaneous, like with me, where I just started to have these continual nonstop feelings that something wasn't right here. This isn't right. We're not meant to live this way. We're supposed to be fully engaged with this planet and all the gifts that it has to offer to us. We're supposed to be dancing. We're supposed to be singing. We're supposed to be creating. We're supposed to be, interacting with the beauty of this planet. That would be like considered heaven on earth, right? Where there's no worries and it's all happy. But yet at the same time, we have to feed ourselves. We have to shelter ourselves. We can't just leave our doors open at night. Anything could wander. And so there's this balance between protection and living fully. And awakening is the process of shedding that which really protects us from the joy too. It's protecting us um, from an expanded experience here. So when a person arrives at that point in their lives, when and your guides and your blueprint almost understands this. I feel like we have this already in our charts before we're coming down. The point at which we're going to crack the shell. And it could be like the angels helped me with that. It could be some profound, awesome experience in nature that does that for a person. It could be sitting in a lecture hall and a teacher says something that just cracks that shell. So once the shell is cracked, light can get in and light can get out. And so it becomes this interactive play of light between what is available to us and what we have inside. And slowly but surely, the walls come down, and then there's no more separation between these two places of light. The light is the light, and there's nothing hiding it from us anymore. And then when our conscious mind becomes aware of this and understands it, when we can really wrap our heads around it, our minds, our thinking minds around it, then it gets really interesting because, the mind it's a tool. It's a tool of creation. Anything that exists was first imagined in someone's mind. This laptop, this microphone, someone had to think of that first and put it together. So in order for us to have the ability to construct the life of our dreams, the things that we want, we need to be able to imagine it's possible. And the awakening process does that for us. It says, yes, it is possible. It introduces us to the magic of universal laws, the way things happen when you're attracted, the law of attraction, the law of abundance. All of this begins to really make sense in the mind. And when your mind and your soul are united, that's when the creation process gets really awesome. So I believe that awakening is a cracking of a shell, a loosening up of those heavy boundaries we've put around ourselves that prevent us from moving forward in love and joy, that stop us from achieving our goals and dreams. And we just become more and more empowered as we learn who we are and move into that state of balance between the interior and the exterior worlds. And you watch what happens. You'll get validations again and again and again. Every single time you exercise that divinity in human form, you will be rewarded with a validation that says, yes, this works. Yes, this is true. Yes, it's always yes.
This is such a powerful conversation because sometimes we don't realize that spirit self, that higher self is always there. It's always been there.
Yeah.
I remember from a very young age, there was a misery that I felt very deep within me from very early, even in my late, 10, 11, 12-year-old self. I was, that misery, I was very, very familiar with that miserable parts. And it's something that made me very curious about, is there, just like the question that you were saying, Rita, that, is this all there is to life? That question came to me, and I was curious about what more can there be? Can there be some bits of joy? But I also knew that there were moments in my days, in my weeks, where I would feel really, really joyful. It could be with friends that I love their company, or I could be I love to dance from a very young age. It could be with, when dancing. It could be when reading a really juicy book. I could touch parts of me that were feeling more joyful, more peaceful, happier parts of me. So that made me curious. And I think we all can become more aware of those times when we can touch base, we can engage, or we feel we are experiencing the joyful parts of us, the joyful parts of life, because in those very moments we are connecting to our divine self, because the ego self is all about survival. And for me, I think that is what spiritual awakening is. It's a really conscious recognition of that spiritual self, of that higher self, of that self that is constantly in a place of love, in a place of non-judgment. And we can begin to focus more on it, become a bit thirstier for it. And once we become aware of it, I don't think there's any going back. Once we become fully aware of that higher self, I do not think we can ever forget it. It is such a beautiful, sweet, sweet experience. So I became very thirsty for it. But it's interesting that the tools that we use to develop our deeper understanding of this higher self, they're so diverse. Millions of tools. Could be spiritual, could be mental, could be emotional, could be somatic, could be energy tools. There are so many different tools. And I think the value of spiritual tools combined with other tools is really key, because it's really what helps us to engage and expand that connection, the embodiment of our higher selves. Could you talk a bit, Rita, about the importance of spiritual tools and the types of spiritual tools that you work with?
Oh, that's another good one. Yeah, spiritual tools, and again, I would say that just like you just described, everyone will find as they move through their awakening process the tools that work for them. For some people, it's sound healing. They may be so into sound and vibrational frequencies moving through the body that that's the tools that they use. For me, I want to say oracle cards, believe it or not, oracle cards, crystals, essential oils. These are three components of the tools, these things that I keep on hand that are very precious to me, that help me create the conditions. And it could be, again, this could be just something that, and it's something that I have come to use as a symbol of my ability to connect. I can connect with or without the tools. Do you know what I mean? And I'm referring to these physical things that I hold or keep handy, but they become something that facilitates an ease of connection for me. It's sort of like, I remember when a good friend of mine, Lisa, is a medium, and she was a medium from birth, from a child. She would see beings coming in and out of the walls, and she had asked her guides, is there some way to just stop them from interrupting me? And it was like, well, just set some ground rules and say that I'm going to allow conversation to occur for 1 hour between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. and setting boundaries and setting rules. So her tools became her ability to create a schedule to do connecting. You see, so it's almost like with whatever's awakening within you, and it could happen in an instant. You may suddenly, all of a sudden, be perceiving people in the astral realms. That has happened where people just have like a spontaneous awakening, and now they're frightened. They're like, I'm channeling. I don't understand any of this. You need to find things that help you feel like you have some control over the process of connecting in the way that you choose to. And many different teachers have participated in my understanding of the use of tools. So I have explored, like you said, you get very thirsty, thirsty for knowledge. So I've explored many different tools. I was never one for the tarot, but back in 2020, I felt like I wanted to learn it. So I started taking classes. I got myself a deck, and I'm slowly but surely becoming more familiar with that, the language of the tarot, because I think that each tool has its own language. I had a friend of mine who recently passed away. Her name was Dot. When I first met her, she had come to one of my circles that I used to hold. I used to hold a lot of different circles in different places, but she told me, she said, I just have this fascination with crystals and rocks, and I don't know why, but I feel like they're talking to me. And I said, then they are talking to you. I might not hear what you hear, but if you're feeling that and you feel it in your bones, those are your friends. That's your community. You're connecting with the mineral gemstone kingdom. Go with it. Go with it. Don't let anybody tell you that that's not right or you should try something else. No. There's people that feel like trees. Trees themselves are the connecting point for them. So anytime they're with trees, they're in their community, they're feeling seen, they're connected. I can honestly say there's definitely something within each person that will call them towards the tools that are right for them. And you'll know it when you feel it.
That recognition of when something is right for us, because there is always so many things being thrown at us. We're always being presented. The opportunities are infinite, are endless. They never stop. And at every level, we go with one option. That option has infinite possibilities. We choose one out of the infinite possibilities. That one we've chosen again has another infinite possibilities. We will never, ever run out of options. We will never, ever run out of opportunities or modalities or permission slips. They are limitless. So it comes to a point where we're recognizing, what is this going to give to me? What am I going to get out of this? A lot of trial and error goes
Yeah,
goes into it, and there can be no judgment. And I don't think anything is a coincidence. I think sometimes we judge ourselves, or we judge certain modalities to be in a particular way or others, and we cannot compare. I believe it's really important to um to allow ourselves to know what really connects with us. I mean, I have
right,
learned that on my journey, to just know what connects with me. What is it that makes me want to get on this path? I know that with energy healing, I only stopped my previous main spiritual modality, which was Christianity. I only stopped that about 12 years ago. And 10 years ago is the last time I actually went to church. So it's
right,
not, it's not that far off. Energy healing for me is, something that I started about a decade ago. But I had been introduced to it from years before, but I could not find myself aligning too much to it. And it was only after I trained up that I felt that life force within me. I felt that energy, that divinity within me as a current, that I knew, yes, I have come home. And we can come to recognize the modalities we are trying, the different modalities, which one feels like home, because it's a remembering. It's not something we're having to learn. It's a remembering. And this is where I want to ask you about gifts, because we all have different gifts. Sometimes we are being connected with by the divine through our different senses, within us. And I wanted to hear from you something about the gifts that, anyone listening or watching this can really come to recognize how the divine is communicating with them. Because this is how we will know more and more, with more clarity, first time round, which modalities, or which of the infinite possibilities or options we can align with. Could you just give us your perspective on gifts and how we can come to recognize more of our gifts?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Like I said earlier, for me, I found that I was connecting with angels through automatic writing. And then I got a deck of cards and I was connecting with them through the cards. And things started to shift and change in different ways. There's some tools or gifts that help us. There's tools that help awaken gifts in us. And then there's I want to say it's like almost a calling. There's a calling. I have another friend. Her name is Tony. We were friends when we were teenagers, and somehow we reconnected 30 years later because she heard I was doing this angel stuff. So we met for lunch, and she said, Rita, I've always wished that I could connect with like my ancestors and people on the other side. And she closed her eyes and she says, can you help, can you like connect with anybody can you tell me who's around me? And I was sitting in the car with her and I was like, Tony, you can do this. This is your gift. And she goes, what are you talking about? I said, you asked for it. You always wanted it. Claim it. And she goes, how? And I said, just keep saying yes to it. She's like, what do you mean? I said, look, I can give you some guidance as to how I do what I do. But I can tell you right now, I can't sit here and say, oh, I see like your grandpop is over here. And I can't do that. That's not how it works with me. But your guides are sitting here telling me right now, you can do this. So this is a good story because, again, she said, I've always wanted to do this. I feel like, oh, it would bring me so much joy if I could do this. And here her guides are saying, then you shall. It is yours. Now, I'm not saying that anybody who says, oh, I wish I could channel like you do, Rita, could just wish it and it will happen. Because again, we're all gifted in different ways, right? You know this. So for her, she felt really drawn to that. Now, other people may have gifts that are, I guess, spiritual in nature, but they're here for a reason that may help other people awaken something within them that's useful for them. Like another friend of mine was teaching Pilates and dance, and yet she had this desire, this yearning to become more creative, to do more creative work, to do more art, to just express herself in a more creative way. She was drawn to a training class that gave her, I guess, a creativity coaching certification. She became a creativity coach, and now she's embracing that as her whole new way of expressing her gifts. So gifts are something that I think we already inherently have some kind of an inclination towards, just like I was always interested in astral projection and past lives. And there was something in me back then when I was a teenager that was saying, hey, you might have this. Go check out more books and things about it. But I shut it down. And then it reemerged at this point when I awakened. But I think that each one of us inside ourselves kind of knows what our gifts are. And your gift may be your cooking. Your gift may be that you love to put a good meal together and watch people enjoy that and provide nourishment in a delicious and beautiful way. Your gift may be that you're a great listener and just your presence sitting down next to someone makes them feel calm and seen and loved and accepted. You don't even have to go get a training in that. Do you know what I mean? There's so many ways that our gifts are here to serve us and humanity that it comes back to the same old thing we always talk about, Bola. It's like, be yourself, be who you are, express yourself. If you truly honor what it is that makes you you, that you love to experience or do, that's a clue as to what your gifts really are. There's some people, I used to work in an engineering company, engineers, like mechanical and electrical engineers. And this one guy I was friends with, Joe. I'm like, so what do you like to do? And he was very nerdy, nice guy. But he was like, oh, well, I have this place in my basement where I like to take apart and reconstruct any kind of machines and stuff. And he's talking, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'd go crazy if I was stuck in a basement trying to deconstruct and reconstruct some mechanical thing. But that was his joy. That was his gift. That was what he was here to do. He was designed. He came in with this wiring that made him a perfect engineer. So and that's why you can't even really compare yourself to other people, because we're all so differently wired that what makes me good at what I do and you good at what you do, it's in our wiring. And you found yourself, you found your joy, and you followed it, and you created this great show and all of the wonderful, beautiful things that you do. And I'm the same way. I've found what makes me happy and joyful, and I'm still trying to figure out more about what it is I want to bring into this world. But that's cool too, because it's all part of this journey of discovery. And if you start feeling like something is stale or it's not connecting, and you're trying desperately to hold on to something that just doesn't really continue to give you that sense of joy or fulfillment, it could be that you're changing again. You're going through another season in life, and it's time to let go, release, so something new can come in. But people are afraid of change. We get very habituated to the things that are familiar, gives us a sense of security and comfort. But the universe is always asking us to be flexible, be fluid, be like the elements, keep moving, changeable, mutable, shiftable. And if we can surrender to that, that's where I said earlier that it's a collaboration when we're creating our lives, right? We have what we want, and then there's what the universe is designing us to be. It's hard sometimes to figure out what that is, but when you learn how to interpret your um, your emotions, what's coming through you, your feelings, your desires, when you love yourself enough to say yes to what you want and no to what you don't want, it continually shifts and brings you more of what you want. And then you have to learn how to let go of the things that aren't there for you anymore, that are shifting. I went through a stage where I was really, really interested in Vedic mantra chanting because I went to a kirtan once. A kirtan is where they sing hymns to music, and it's a call and response kind of a thing. I felt that in my body. I felt it in my soul. I felt some connection to this version of the divine that I had never experienced before. And I was like, I have to learn this. And lo and behold, I found the right teacher. everything just all of a sudden, it was all I could see everywhere. It was bringing me Vedic mantra chanting. And I learned some amazing mantras that I use now as part of my own practices in connecting to the divine. So that's probably a very long-winded answer. But our gifts are there for us. They're inside of us. They're just waiting to be unwrapped. And you can do that by saying yes to what brings you joy and following your curiosity. Just stay open and malleable and moving, and it will reveal itself to you.
I love what you said, Rita, about how it's so unique. I don't think I'd want to be stuck in a basement either doing electrical stuff. I would be the last place you would find me.
Yeah, that was his joy place, but
That
I
is so
could not
unique.
imagine it. I'm like,
This
oh,
is it.
okay, have
This is
fun.
this is it. It is such a unique thing. And I truly believe that each and every one of us has come to experience, learn through that form, that ego forms, the different roles. We've come to learn through those roles so that we can express consciousness in a very unique way. We're also unique, and I do love those, that explanation and the very practical example and how gifts come to us. I think we are much more aware of our gifts as children. The things we'd love to do as children before we got all the expectations of the world presented to
Right.
us. There's certain things that come up much more naturally to us, our superpowers. And
Right.
we also have those spiritual gifts about how the universe, universal energy connects with us, whether you are, clairvoyant or clairaudient or clairsentient. So, whether you are being connected to by words, by visions, by sounds, there are definitely different ways that we can come to understand what is unique about how we really learn through those forms and how we also connect with the divine. There are
Yeah.
gifts in both aspects. Not everybody has come to explore this theme, but if you have, the awareness of the frequencies is what is key, and the knowledge of the capacity that we have to actually align to the frequencies that we feel will serve us best, using different tools, using different modalities, which is what Daily Soul Bites is all about. We're all about sharing different modalities so that we can come to give our own selves much easier permission to do whatever it is we need to do, to shift into whatever dimensions or whatever frequencies we feel works for us. How do you serve your clients? I know you've mentioned you have done a number of classes in the past. How do you serve your clients at this time?
When I serve, I think what I'm doing is I'm opening up a sacred space, a safe space where people can come together to be with one another. For me, community is really, really important. And so I feel like I'm of service the best when I am helping the community connect people. So however I can facilitate connections of people through gatherings, through circles, through sharing events. I just put out to the community that I set up a Reiki share, which is it's an invitation to Reiki practitioners to come together for a couple of hours to both give and receive Reiki to and from one another, and share stories and techniques, or talk about, maybe the ways we've made Reiki our own, and show other people, here's something that I do. And you learn from each other. So in these ways, I feel that just being there to support people on their journey is important. When people come together in groups at my center, which is a very small place, we usually sit in a circle of sorts, and I may find that I'm guided to it, and they do this to me. They do it in this way. I may be sharing a download or wisdom. I may have them do a meditation. I may have them do a breath work exercise, but I'll see a play, something playing out in my mind where they show me standing up and doing something. So then I follow the directions. Whatever I see, I will get up and I'll begin to walk around the circle, place my hands, if however they show me to place my hands, to speak whatever they say to speak. Different ascended beings will come through. We might have Kuan Yin present. We might have the goddess Isis come in. In the thing I just did a couple of days ago, the Egyptian goddess Hathor came through. Cow goddess, right? Her empowerment was incredible. And so I just take what I'm given and I give it. So I serve in that way the community. I try to create things that will be available for people. I don't charge a lot so that I can be there for people. It's $20 to come to one of my things, maybe $33. You know what I mean? Like I look at this as being of service to the community and creating things that will help us find a place to gather and minister to one another. In that way, we grow our bonds, we grow friendships. There's so many people that I've met who have become friends from coming to some of these gatherings. They're trading phone numbers at the end and just talking endlessly. I'm closing the lights and saying, okay, and people are still chatting. I love that part. That's like my favorite part. And then with one-on-ones, I serve by being here for one-on-one sessions with people where we're connecting through Zoom or in person. And it's a conversation, what drew you to me? What drew you to this session? What do you need right now? And then I listen, and then we open up, and then whatever comes through, comes through. Sometimes it's messages and information. Sometimes it is healing attunements from whoever's coming through at that time. Again, I work with angels, ascended masters, all beings of a high vibrational frequency. Connecting across these dimensions for people helps them receive in a way that they can understand, and it's tangible, and they will receive oftentimes guidance that they need to follow, or they can choose to follow. Let's put it that way. Everything's a choice, right? So they may receive an understanding. Seeing something from a different perspective helps us learn for ourselves how best to navigate through this time period. They may be taught a new practice. They may be given something that they can take with them. It's different every single time, Bola, and that what continues to make this feel really fresh and new for me.
Where could people find you?
I think the easiest way is just to go to my website, which is my name, Rita Strough, RitaStrough.org. It's not com, it's ORG. That will give you the classes that I'm offering if you wanted to book a session with me. And of course, I'm listed on Oracle also as a practitioner. So if you go to orykl.com, oracle.com, and put in my name, you'll find me there. And there's links to find me from there as well.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Rita. Thank you for joining us today, Rita.
Absolutely. And, I am doing a virtual online class called Awakening with the Angels. I do it once a month. It's over Zoom. It's 1 hour. And I think I have an offer for your followers if you're interested.
Yes, yes. That
to
would be
just
lovely.
to save 10%, which really isn't. I only charge $11.11. So you'll save $1.11. It'll be $10 for you. You just put in Divine 10, DIVINE 10, Divine 10 in the app where you apply the code for a discount if you were to book that. And again, that's on my website, ritastrough.org. Look for classes and events and go to Awakening with the Angels. And there's one every month. So if this month isn't good, next month, give it a try. And in those, we gather together virtually. We call in the angels. There's a lot of like, I want to describe it as attunement because your frequency will rise. Your frequency will rise, and you'll feel really good if you decide to do that. So I encourage people to take that hour for themselves. It's fun
Thank
too.
you. Thank you, Rita. It's been great having you join us today, honestly.
Oh,
Really wonderful.
thank you, Bola. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and it's so good to see your beautiful face. So thank you for inviting me here to join you today.
Beautiful, beautiful. I look forward to connecting more with you on Oracle, Rita. That would be nice. Um,
Yes.
and I want to thank our audience for joining us today, to invite you to subscribe to Daily Soul Bytes Show, invite you to connect with Rita, because this is about that spiritual awakening journey, understanding the selves, becoming much more familiar with that connection to spirit, and how we evolve that spirit self to a place of embodiment, to a place of presence where we are able to live our lives as the true self, as true pure awareness. This is the sweetest spot, I believe, for those who are on the spiritual awakening path. So I do want to encourage you to connect with Rita and to connect with me if you do want to work with me. I'm also going to be doing the Sacred Merge, a Sacred Merge portal that's going to be running. It's a collaboration with Channel, Source, and Oracle. We're going to be having monthly sessions where we're going to be channeling different beings. So I'm looking forward to that. That started in March. So we'll be broadcasting that. And I look forward to seeing you on the very next episode of the Daily Soul Bar Show. Bye bye.